Most people who decide to raise their own eggs start in the same place. They get chickens. It feels natural. Chickens are familiar. Every beginner guide recommends them. Most neighbors who keep birds keep hens. It seems like the obvious first step, and there's nothing wrong with that. But small plots have limits. Quiet limits. And those limits change what actually works best over time. If you're working with a backyard, a compact homestead, or a carefully managed piece of land, and you want steady eggs without steady strain, then this conversation is for you. Before we go further, if you appreciate calm, practical guidance like this, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Golden Garden Days. It helps the channel grow, and it lets me know you value thoughtful, long-term system design. Here, we don't begin with what's most popular. We begin with what your land can comfortably sustain year after year. So let's look at the only 3 animals truly worth raising for egg production on small plots. Animal 3. Chickens. Productive, but structurally heavy. Chickens are not a mistake. They are useful, productive, and time-tested. Many small plot growers begin with them, and for good reason. They are approachable. They are widely available. There is no shortage of advice on how to raise them. For someone just stepping into egg production, chickens feel like the safe choice. But on limited land, chickens carry more system weight than most people realize. A laying hen requires consistent, high-protein feed to maintain steady egg production. Kitchen scraps and occasional foraging rarely sustain reliable output for long. Most small-scale flocks depend heavily on purchased grain, even when the yard looks green and active. That dependency may not feel significant at first, but over time it shapes the entire system. Feed becomes the foundation. When prices rise, when supply shifts, or when quality changes, egg production becomes vulnerable. Chickens also scratch aggressively. In large pasture systems, this can support soil aeration and pest control. On small plots, the same instinct strips ground cover, exposes roots, and creates bare patches that compact and erode. Recovery takes time, and when space is tight, there is little room for recovery cycles. Another structural issue is the production lifespan. Many common laying breeds peak strongly in their first 2 years. After that, output declines gradually. Small plot owners often replace birds more frequently than expected, which means brooding chicks, waiting months for maturity, and absorbing quiet gaps in egg supply. A common mistake is starting with too many hens. A dozen birds can overwhelm a compact yard quickly, increasing feed costs and accelerating soil where before the system has time to stabilize. Over time, these pressures can be softened. Smaller flocks, rotational runs, thoughtful compost management, and planted forage strips all help. Chickens can absolutely belong in a small plot system, but when they carry the entire egg burden alone, the system becomes fragile. One predator breach, one harsh season, or one feed spike can narrow supply quickly. The weakness is not the chicken. The weakness is dependence on a single species. Animal 2. Ducks. Forage integration and reduced soil strain. Ducks shift the structure of the system in a noticeable way. Where chickens tend to dominate the ground they occupy, ducks move through it more fluidly. Their behavior is gentler on established cover. Instead of constant scratching and tearing, ducks graze, nibble, and dabble. On small plots where grass, clover, or orchard understory must recover quickly, that difference becomes significant. Many laying duck breeds match or even exceed common chicken breeds in annual egg production. They also tend to lay consistently over a longer portion of their lifespan. Rather than peaking sharply and declining quickly, some ducks maintain steadier output across the years. Their eggs are rich, slightly larger in many cases, and valued for baking and cooking. The structural advantage becomes clearer when you observe forage conversion. Ducks are exceptional at turning slugs, beetles, larvae, fallen fruit, and damp vegetation into protein. If your land includes orchard rows, shaded garden paths, or slightly moist ground that never quite dries out, ducks often fit naturally into those spaces. Instead of fighting the environment, they work with it. They still require balanced feed. No egg-laying bird thrives without proper nutrition, but ducks harvest more from the land itself. That subtle shift reduces pressure on purchased grain and lowers overall system dependency. Water management is the most common mistake. Ducks need access to water deep enough to clean their eyes and nostrils. Without drainage planning, mud builds quickly, especially near fixed water stations. Over time, that mud can compact soil and create odor issues. The solution is design, not avoidance. Controlled water placement, shallow basins with drainage, and rotational access to prevent constant saturation in one spot. As the seasons pass, ducks contribute more than eggs. They reduce slug populations in gardens. They patrol orchard floors. They help convert waste fruit into usable nutrition. Soil disturbance drops compared to scratching flocks. Garden beds remain more intact. The land feels less stressed. For many small plots, ducks already outperform chickens in overall efficiency and resilience. They ask for thoughtful setup, but they return that effort with integration rather than disruption. And yet, there is still one animal that reduces structural pressure even further. Animal 1. Quail, compact stability and controlled production. Quail are rarely the first animal people think about when they imagine fresh eggs. They don't have the familiar presence of chickens or the pastoral image of ducks moving through grass. Yet on small plots, they often provide the most stable and controlled foundation for egg production. Their greatest advantage is spatial efficiency. A modest enclosure can support a productive group of coturnix quail without placing visible strain on the land. They do not need pasture rotation. They do not require open yard space. For suburban backyards, compact homesteads, or tightly managed properties, this dramatically reduces pressure on soil and vegetation. Their feed consumption is modest relative to their output. Quail still require complete, balanced nutrition. They are not feed-free birds, but the total volume consumed is significantly lower than larger poultry. Over time, that difference shows clearly in the feed bill. Lower intake combined with steady laying creates a more predictable input-to-output ratio. Quail also mature quickly. Many begin laying at 6 to 8 weeks of age. That short cycle reduces vulnerability. If production drops due to age, replacement time is brief. There are no long waiting periods before eggs resume. The system resets quickly, which strengthens long-term reliability. Their eggs are smaller, but output is consistent. In a well-managed group, daily collection becomes dependable. Because quail are typically raised in enclosed systems, predator exposure is far easier to control. Instead of guarding open pasture, you manage a contained environment. The most common mistake is overcrowding. Their small size often leads people to push density too far. Stress, reduced laying, and health issues follow. Clean housing, steady ventilation, and appropriate spacing are essential. When managed properly, quail remain calm and productive. Over time, quail systems become highly predictable. They do not strip vegetation. They do not compact soil. They do not require recovery cycles. Their production operates independently of open land pressure, which makes them uniquely suited to very small acreage. On tight plots, that reliability often makes them the strongest foundation for egg security. Now consider your own space carefully. Which animal places the least strain on your land? Which one reduces your reliance on purchased inputs the most? Which one feels sustainable not just this season, but 5 years from now? This comparison is not about abandoning chickens or rewriting your entire setup. It is about recognizing where pressure builds and deciding, slowly and deliberately, how to reduce it over time. At the heart of all this is one quiet principle: resilience. Small plots live within limits. There is only so much space, so much forage, so much recovery time. Every animal you introduce draws from that pool. When a single species is responsible for all your egg production, the system becomes more sensitive to disruption. Chickens are productive, but they carry heavier feed demands and more soil disturbance. Ducks ease some of that pressure. They work with forage more naturally and disturb the ground less aggressively. Quail reduce land strain even further while keeping egg production steady and controlled. When you begin to see these differences clearly, the idea of layering starts to make sense. A small quail group can provide dependable baseline eggs. A few ducks can move through orchard rows or garden edges, turning pests into food. A modest chicken flock can focus on compost turning and seasonal abundance instead of carrying the entire load year-round. Now the system breathes. Risk spreads out. If feed prices climb, the birds that forage better help balance the cost. If one species slows during a particular season, another may continue laying. If predators challenge open ground birds, enclosed birds still produce. This is not a new idea. Many older small farms kept mixed species for exactly this reason. Diversity was insurance. It stabilized food supply without needing constant intervention. The modern backyard trend toward just chickens mirrors industrial thinking more than traditional land-based resilience. The real shift happens in the question you ask yourself. Instead of asking, "Which animal should I raise?" you begin asking, "What can my land support without stress?" That question changes everything. You don't have to build a layered system overnight. Add gradually. Watch what happens. Notice where pressure eases and where it builds. Adjust calmly. Over time, feed dependence softens. Soil stays covered longer. Production becomes steadier and less dramatic. The aim is not to squeeze out the maximum number of eggs possible. The aim is to gather eggs consistently, without exhausting your land or your budget. If you already keep chickens, you've done nothing wrong. There's no need to tear down what you've built. Just make one steady adjustment. Perhaps reduce flock size slightly. Perhaps add a small quail enclosure to anchor production. Perhaps introduce a pair of ducks where the land naturally supports them. Small plots respond well to thoughtful design. You're not just keeping birds. You're shaping a system that supports you back. A resilient grower pays attention to land signals. A resilient grower reduces dependency step by step. A resilient grower builds something that holds steady through change. If this calm, steady way of thinking feels right to you, subscribe to Golden Garden Days. We're not chasing trends here. We're building long-term stability, one careful layer at a time.